Hey Andrew. All right. So I highlighted some of the things that I felt were important and uh, what you brought up. Let's just look at the images first. I definitely feel like you've done a better job with capturing the essence of things, so that's good. In this case, I still would say the heads are a little on the small side, but I see you're kind of like you're pushing the legs as well, so that could work. Um, yeah, this looks really successful. Like how oversized the jacket is. Okay. I feel like you kind of changed her face a bit too much. Like, I don't recognize the person as much because this person looks like they have kind of close together eyes. And, like, there's a triangle that you get when you connect the corners of the eyes and then you kind of go down. You get two. You go down to the nose, and then another one you can go down to the mouth or down to the chin. And you can see how, like, this one is sort of like this shape, and then in yours it's very wide. See how wide that triangle is? So you need it more like that with the eyes like there, and then it should work better. But look for that triangle, because it's pretty important for getting like a relationship. But I like how you did the shadow shapes in the scarf. That's looking good. Yep, this is fine. Okay, so this is the one you had a lot of trouble with. Yeah, it looks okay, but I'll focus on this one. And then this one's funny. Again, very small heads. So the thing with small heads that I feel can be problematic is the reason we make we make the heads a bit larger in cartoony stuff. You make the heads large and you make the hands like larger than they are. And that's because that's where a lot of the emotion and expression is conveyed. And it's where we tend to look. So if you look at a cartoon, what's going to be bigger? Like the head's going to be bigger, but the eyes are going to be really big. And the reason is because of that whole, the eyes are the windows to the soul. We want to focus on these areas, and the hands are expressive. So really, this isn't something that is about style outside of how humans perceive, but it's very much within just how humans perceive things and what is important to them. So when you make things like the eyes bigger and the head bigger, it's just making it easier for us as humans to relate to a character and their intentions or expressions, whatever they're thinking. It just becomes a lot more clear. I won't say this is bad. This is fine. And I know you're not necessarily going towards a cartoony style, but I am bringing it up just because this is kind of universal. And when you exaggerate certain things, they will have an effect. And certain things will feel like, I don't know exactly what it is about this character, but it's really easy to feel connected to them, or I feel like they have a lot of emotions. Well, a lot of that might just be the person made the character's head and features more readable. And so us as viewers, we can look at that and then say, aha, I know what you're feeling. That's a successful character, right? So, yeah, we'll deal with the major ones, which were the teddy bear one and top right was a bit tricky because you felt the scarf was swallowing her head, but you didn't want to cover her whole face because you'd lose the expression. Yeah, see, that's the thing. If you make the head bigger, you don't have to lose the expression. So here, what I would do is he's got this like this is the actual face shape. Now you notice how you've got this kind of like curved shape. That's kind of unusual to a lot of people. So it's something that he has in his face. And so what I would do is I'd like really push this. Like I'd actually simplify all of this into one curve that's doing this. And so I'd enhance that and like push this chin out because that's like defining feature of him. And then go like that. So I'm creating this kind of shape. So once you can start to see these shapes in people, these like simple shapes, it's easier to simplify and to find the shapes that are defining this character or making them unique. So very big eyebrows. And then I would say the forehead's kind of wide, but kind of short in a way. So let's say like that. And then the beanie. So I'm pushing the beanie at an angle that's more like this. The real one is going like this. But I feel like this is going to enhance this feeling of a shape. And it's not what I see, but it's kind of contributing to a better design. Now, the thing is, even if you don't want to have a final result that is cartoony, like if this is nothing like what you're intending your final to look like, it's still not a bad idea to learn how to simplify in this way. Because what happens is, if you look at Rockwell, if you look at Leyendecker, they do have this simplification, but then they just render it more. So see how I've kept the eyes really simple? There's nothing to stop me from actually using this as a base and then, you know, adding little plane changes and, you know, dealing with maybe more subtlety of the anatomy and making it in a way more quote unquote realistic, but still maintaining all this energy. So that's why I think cartoons are a great starting point, actually, even if you're ending with something more realistic, because you can use the cartoon as sort of a starting, like capturing the bigger shapes, right? So, you know, I mean, this is sort of in between now, cartoon and realistic, but the whole point is you can start really simply and still get a result. So yeah, I think overall you're on the right track. I like how you push the foot up more. Now you could enhance that even further. Just, you know, make these feet more long. Make the hands bigger, because that's, again, it's important, right? We look at hands, we want to see what someone's doing. It's just human nature. We look at these things. I mean, maybe that might change just because, you know, people, I do think human nature is something that can change. If we're not paying as much attention to people, maybe that'll change. But okay, so he's holding his phone, and then you give him like skinny arms because he doesn't really have, you know, super big arms. But I like this like push, so then we go like that, get that, keep this in, and then make that hand potentially a bit bigger. Probably put this leg back. It feels kind of imbalanced. And you can just check that really quickly by flipping the image. Is this guy feeling balanced? And you'll see there's like a shape there. If I block this into a shape, maybe something like this. So you can try and get that. Keep the leg skinny. And then push out that shirt. And kind of end up with something like that. But Yeah, let's deal with the ones you had bigger problems with. So we had bigger problem with this one. Okay, so I just want to make it so I get to see this clearly. So again, I feel like you're doing, I don't know if this is how you're drawing, but it feels very like this, like it's pieced together. Was the thing I would want to do is think more about this, like a big shape. So something like that. And I found by keeping the lines looser and sort of just trying to make appealing shapes, it can work better. So here I've made the legs much shorter, but I noticed like this is a huge thing with the how the crotch is very low. So yeah, I probably want to exaggerate that. And I feel like you've got this movement, right? Like this whole thing kind of can be simplified as one thing. The knee pops out a bit. And then you got this kid. So with kids, you did the thing where you made the head a bit smaller, but this just makes her look like somewhere you're not sure if she's adult or, I mean, obviously this is a kid, but you made her look older. So if you made that head bigger and push out that cheek a bit, and then you made the body, you know, small, you can keep this really small. I think like generally you're doing fine, but make those legs shorter. Now you've got more of like this child proportion going on. So whatever you do on top of that, you know, if you make these clothes fashionable or whatnot, the basic underlying thing is going to be very childlike. So we won't get confused. So here, you know, could make the eyes. Keep the nose small. I'm not 100% happy with the placement of the head, so something I like to do, I'll just take the head, I'll select it, I'll make the head bigger still. I'll just move it around until it feels like, okay, this is following that curve. Okay. I'll try simplifying this a bit more. Okay. Now I'm going to give her hair that's really pushed out because it feels like, you know, it's popping out there. Give her the hat. And then you go in and you can detail all these things like with the scarf and whatnot. But if you're not starting in a simple enough way, it can be really, really tough. So I'm going to try lowering the guy's head a bit. And you're right, there's this like big chin thing going on. So we could do that. And like I see this head like this shape, like that. We can go ahead and do that. Hat's like sort of popping out. Okay, then got like pretty big glasses, pretty small nose, mouth, and then this bigger beard area. Get the hoodie popping out, and then this hand, I want to sort of simplify that. Now he's got this sort of like protectiveness over her, with his hand sort of pushing, and I want to exaggerate that because it's, again, you know, keep the hands a bit bigger maybe so that it's just easier to see. And then he's got this like bagginess. So initially I created this shape, but then there's no reason I can't go in after and sort of straighten out or adjust that shape, because I'll still have that feeling. See, the feeling is this, even though I got rid of it. So that's why I like to, you know, I'll do like curves and stuff on figures, even if I'm gonna, like, let's say this is a leg, I'm gonna simplify it and put in the anatomy more like that. You could say, well, this is very straight. Yes, but you feel that curve because it was built on a curve. So if it's built on a curve, it'll still feel very very cool and energetic, even if you straighten it out after the fact. So again, keeping these legs shorter at the bottom, it's going to enhance that child feeling. Get the scarf. And I guess like that's it. That's, you know, how I would be thinking of it. Let's see with this hand. So we've got this simple shape, then we can get the backpack. And again, don't worry if it feels too cartoony, because you can take cartoony stuff and make it way less cartoony and it'll still feel good. Because the cartoony thing, instead of thinking about cartoony, I tend to think of simplified as a better way of thinking about that. Like I'm finding the largest, simplest shapes. So here's a backpack. And then, yeah, so something like that. Maybe enhance how big this pocket thing is. Could maybe get some of the wrinkles in there if you want. Probably not necessary if you simplify it more. But yeah, so that's how I treat that one. Then you mentioned something about the scarf, getting lost in the scarf. So what I would do to handle that, so first of all, I would push the head a bit larger than you've got. Pay attention to that triangle. Sometimes you might want to start with that triangle. You just get sort of the landmarks, and then, okay, get the eyes. They're kind of like this, but then the eyebrows are doing like that. Hair is coming down like that. Okay, but now she's enveloped in the scarf. And you can see the scarf has like this angle. You can actually push that so that it's, you know, going higher. So now I'm changing reality, but I'm changing it so that I can convey more of what I want, which is like, oh, she's getting lost in this scarf. But I've also altered the angle so that it's like this more, so we still see a lot of face. Whereas if I flattened it this way, see how now we're like seeing less face. So I'm changing it so it still feels like, oh, she's wrapped in this. In fact, I could, you know, take that to the extreme if I wanted. I'll just do it to the extreme. You don't have to do it this way. And I'm not saying this is how I would personally do it if it was an image I was working on, because that's not how I see this. But I'm just going to say, because you mentioned like she feels like she's being eaten by a scarf. If you really, or not eaten by a scarf, but like, you know, whatever. So there, see, now this is kind of like all over the place. Get the nose. And then the mouth. I feel like the mouth has this very interesting shape, kind of like a bird in flight shape. So I'm like trying to get that, because that's what I see. And then I see the nose also has this like shape. So I'm seeing a repeated shape, which is like that. And I see it in the eyes, I see it in the eyebrows. So if I can enhance that shape, it's probably going to create a more successful design. So even if I, you know, think this way, I'm just creating that shape over and over again, but then I don't draw it, like I erase, but I leave the parts that follow that shape, it'll still have that feeling of that shape. So I think that's the big takeaway. You can simplify a thing and still maintain the feeling. Okay, so yeah, hand goes down. And again, I would think about the whole figure when you're doing this. So when I try to be rough and loose with things, I'm gonna go as much over the body as I can using large sweeping motions. So I'm blocking it in, and then I'll worry about details later, but the important thing is not the details for now, it's everything else. It's just making sure this feels good. Once it feels good, everything else will work. Could push the head even further. But yeah, like this is getting very much into that cartoony territory, but it's really tough to say, because for me, I think all these things are one thing. Like if you think about realism and anime or cartoons or whatever, I don't know, maybe this is like graphic design, whatever. If there's like a triangle, I think of them all connected and you can move anywhere in this. I don't think of it as I'm drawing cartoons now or I'm drawing realism now. It's like, well, no, I'm focused on large shapes in all of them, focused on simplification. With realism, it's more a matter of, for me, like, am I gonna spend extra time breaking the shapes down even further? Kind of like if you've done 3D and you subdivide forms, you can subdivide them over and over and get smaller and smaller forms. So anyway, something like this maybe with the scarf. Just taking in these things, trying to pay attention to some of the shadow shapes. But yeah, that's how I would do it. And then break it down. And you can do this as many times as you want. Like you can lower the opacity of this, and then maybe not that much, maybe like that, and then take another pass. Like maybe you see something interesting, like maybe this scarf thing could be simplified as one line. Well, what happens if I do that, but like with a nice confident approach, and I get this kind of shape. So that's creating its own kind of appeal, right? So you can do a bunch of things this way and get results that are quite interesting, just by not treating what you've got as the end, but as something to build upon. So, yep. Hope this helps, and thanks for watching.